Howdy y'all, I'm John with Garage Gym Revisited, and today on a beautiful summer day here in Austin, Texas, we are going to be reviewing the Major Fitness PLM03 Power Rack with dual cross cable pulley system. Now we got a real beast of a machine here today, lots of functionality to talk about. Let's dive into the review. What can you do? What can't you do? What do we like? What do we not like about the PLM03? There's a lot to cover here, so I'm going to start at the front and work my way back. So starting up here, one of the first things that I really appreciate is that of the pieces that you can attach to these upright frames, which include the dip bar handles here, the safety bars, and the J-hooks, these are all very easy and simple to take off, put back on, move positions. All you have to do is pull the metal piece aside, pull it out, put the bar back in, just make sure it fits through this back hole, and then pop it right back into place. Very easy, very simple. You can see the same functionality here with the J-hooks. They simply swivel off, pull out, put right back on. I really like that. To do dips, you've got your inner grip here, which is going to work more of the triceps, and then you've got the outer grip, which is going to hit more of the pecs, more of the shoulders. So it's really nice that they've built in that optionality, and these things are pretty solid. They're, not like locked in place, but they're not going to go anywhere when you're trying to get a good workout. Moving on to what we have here at the front of the PLM03, you've got a nice solid metal kick plate. That'll be great if you wanted to move this cable down here and do some rows, or just for any other reason that you might want to be sitting on the floor and having some added stability. You have a great landmine. Nothing special necessarily when it comes to landmines, but it's a very solid piece of metal. Lots of flexibility, good range of motion. So lots to love there, nothing to complain about. Moving back up to the top, you have a great pull-up bar, which provides a lot of options here. You have the wide grip handles at the side, which are slightly angled. You've got two neutral grip options, which, I harp on the optionality because people come in all different shapes and sizes. They have different workout goals and desires. So as a manufacturer of workout equipment, providing optionality for various exercises or people of various sizes and statures is always preferred. So you've got overhand and underhand options, you have straight and angled options, and you've got two different neutral options for your kind of hammer grips. So really like the pull-up bar there. Last thing I'll mention while we're talking about the front is that I really like what they've done here with the safety bars. So what we've seen from some other racks is that typically they will have a J-hook section here up front, especially if the middle of the cage is taken up by a Smith machine, which the PLM does not have. But most of the time, if a power rack does have a Smith machine attachment, that means that the only place that you can have a freestanding barbell is here at the front. And most of the time, whether or not they have a Smith machine at all, if they do intend for the user to utilize the J-hook and the freestanding barbell here at the front, typically they would have some safety bars, and I have yet to review a power rack whose safety bars are not far too short. A lot of the ones I've seen, they would maybe only extend like 6 or 7 inches out from the front upright frame here, and that simply means that you have a very limited window in which you can squat or overhead press or whatever it is that you're doing, while you still are in the range where if you had to drop the weight suddenly, the safety bars would catch it. And so you end up in a situation where you can't go further than where the barbell is, but you can't go too far forward because those safety bars just don't extend far enough. I've got a lot of room to work with, and basically no matter what happens to me or what kind of trouble I run into, I'm able to drop these to the safety bar, and it completely eliminates my need to worry about where I am with regards to the rack. So I'm a big fan of that. The J-hooks are nothing special, but they're very solidly made. As I mentioned, it's very easy for you to take them on and off, to reposition them. So big fan of the actual cage, part of the cage. But when it comes to using the actual cables themselves, they're really quite nice. So the way that they've structured it, Major Fitness here has with the dual crossover cable use means that whatever weight you put on that middle column is going to apply equally to both the left and the right cable, which is great. It's a bit more efficient to just load up your weight in the middle rather than having to load up weight on one side and then load up weight on the other side if you wanted to have weight bearing down on that cable. So right now, I've got my 50 pounds over there, and if I pull on this, I'm getting all 50 pounds. If I pull on both of these, again, I'm getting all 50 pounds. The cables move smoothly. There's no drag or lag or excess length in the cables. They're basically exactly the length that you want, and it was quite easy to do all the cable exercises that I might want to do. There is no way to permanently screw this thing into the ground. With a lot of other power racks this size, we've seen other companies incorporate, typically somewhere here behind the band pegs, there would be a little piece of metal, and then they would include maybe some 5 to 6 inch bolts where you could actually bolt the machine directly to the ground. So if you knew that you wanted this to stay in place forever in your garage or your basement or wherever, typically on both sides of the machine, you'd be able to come in there and permanently screw it into the ground. The PLM03 simply lacks any of that. So on the one hand, it's going to be easier to move if you decide that you want to change the location of your home gym. On the other hand, it's going to be lacking the ability to actually be screwed into place. The second thing I'll mention is that, again, normally on a lot of power racks this size, you would have a significant amount of weight storage, and often you would at least have sort of a symmetrical plate storage, typically on the back. On this one, you have this one dual storage pylon here on my left, and yes, you could fit a couple of plates on there, and the weight that's added on to the machine itself, especially with a low center of gravity, as opposed to, say, a rack that might have weight storage across the top or the middle, having that low center of gravity plate storage is going to allow that extra weight to help keep the machine stable when in use. But because you only have this one storage area and you don't have it on both sides, you're not going to get as much of a benefit as you normally would from some other racks where you could pile, say, 8 or 10 or 12 plates and have hundreds of pounds weighing the thing down and helping you out there. And we double checked every single one of these and made sure that they were tight, and still somehow we're just getting a bit of sway going back and forth. And again, you can see that I don't have any weights on the pylon right now. I don't have anything on the barbell here. I do have 50 pounds in the cables just to provide a bit of resistance. And again, it's not the end of the world if I were to just start pulling on this thing. Again, the rack stays pretty steady. You're not going to have any issues when you're actually using the cables here in terms of, again, if you wanted to vigorously get some lawnmowers in, it's going to move a little bit. It's going to make a bit of noise. Not the end of the world. The most egregious is probably when I go in for some pull-ups. Again, if my form is good and I'm actively trying not to shake too much, it's not bad, but you can see how much this thing moves if I try to move it. And I think when it comes to stability, the ideal situation for a power rack would be I try to move it and it does not move. But with this thing, when I try to move it, it does move quite a bit. If you were doing this by yourself, I would estimate somewhere around 5 or 6 hours. Per usual, a lot of that effort is just going to come from screwing in all these bolts that are ubiquitous across the PLM03. Like we always say, the companies, in this case Major Fitness, they do include both the regular wrenches and the Allen wrenches, everything that you absolutely need in order to assemble this, but you'll be able to save a ton of time if you have a socket wrench, and especially if you have a wrench attachment for a drill. A drill is going to save you a ton of time just so that you're not having to crank out each of these bolts by hand. You're going to be able to rack enough weight on here, you're going to be able to do enough exercises, you're going to be able to get enough out of this to where, like, this is not something that you might grow out of. This could be a staple of your garage gym for years to come, and it's going to cover just about everything you might want to be able to do. So we've got some other Major Fitness racks that we have reviewed on Garage Gym Revisited, so if you want to get an idea of what the company's offering definitely go check those out. But if this was what you were looking for and you were just on the fence about, well, I want to see someone use it, I want to get an idea of everything I can do here, I can tell you that I've been really happy with this. It's a solid machine, and I don't think anybody would be disappointed by adding this to their garage gym repertoire.